From the ashes of its fallen empire to the bustling capital of modern Italy, Rome's story after 476 AD is one of remarkable endurance and reinvention. Though the city lost the political power that once ruled the Mediterranean, it remained a beacon of faith, art, and culture, shaping the destiny of Europe across the centuries. Medieval Rome became the spiritual center of Christendom under the popes, a place where pilgrims journeyed even as its population dwindled among ancient ruins. The Renaissance and Baroque eras transformed it into a dazzling showcase of artistic genius, while Enlightenment travelers marveled at its classical heritage. In the 19th century, Rome stood at the heart of Italy's unification and emerged as the nation's capital, balancing its sacred role as the seat of the Catholic Church with its new civic identity. Today, the Eternal City embodies nearly 2 millennia of continuous history, where layers of imperial grandeur, papal authority, and modern vibrancy coexist in a living monument to human resilience and creativity. According to Roman mythology, the city's founding was immortalized in the legend of Romulus and Remus. The twins were said to be sons of Mars, the god of war, and the Vestal maiden Rhea Silvia, and grandsons of a deposed Latin king. Cast adrift as infants and suckled by a she-wolf in the wild, a scene famously depicted by the bronze Capitoline wolf statue Romulus and Remus survived to overthrow their wicked great-uncle and restore their grandfather to power. The brothers then decided to found a new city on the banks of the Tiber River. A quarrel between them led Romulus to kill Remus, after which Romulus named the city Roma after himself and became its first ruler. Roman historians later calculated the foundation date as 753 BC, a date first recorded by Varro and still used by modern historians to mark Rome's birth. In Roman culture, April 21, the festival of Perilia was celebrated as the city's birthday. While the Romulus myth glorified Rome's divine origins and martial spirit, modern archaeology suggests the city's rise was a gradual process emerging from the unification of early hilltop settlements rather than a single heroic event. Nevertheless, the legend of its founding remained a proud symbol of Roman identity throughout antiquity. Rome's legendary beginnings were marked by a monarchy of 7 kings, blending myth and early history. Romulus, the first ruler, created the Senate, organized the army, set laws and rights, and invited people of every class, even refugees and former slaves, to populate the new city. He chose 100 elders as patres, fathers, laying the base for a political aristocracy. Numa Pompilius, 715–672 BC, a Sabine known for peace, strengthened religion, instituted priestly offices, and established Rome's calendar, giving the young state social cohesion. Tullus Hostilius, 672–640 BC, was warlike, defeating Alba Longa and merging its nobles with Rome, while Ancus Marcius, 640–616 BC, founded the port of Ostia and tightened control over neighboring tribes. Etruscan influence appeared with Lucius Tarquinius Priscus, 616–578 BC. He initiated major works: the Great Sewer Cloaca Maxima, the Circus Maximus for chariot races, and the Grand Temple of Jupiter on the Capitoline Hill. His successor, Servius Tullius, 578–534 BC, introduced the Servian constitution, reorganizing citizens by wealth and residence to structure military service and voting, and built the defensive Servian wall as the city expanded. The final king, Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, 534–509 BC, ruled as a proud tyrant. He finished the Temple of Jupiter and asserted dominance over Latin towns, but ignored the Senate and traditions. Outrage peaked when his son Sextus raped the noblewoman Lucretia, who took her own life to preserve her honor. In 509 BC, Lucius Junius Brutus led a revolt that expelled the Tarquins, abolished the monarchy, and established the Republic with annually elected consuls. From then on, the title Rex King was hated, yet this 244-year regal era left Rome with lasting political, religious, and urban foundations for its future power. The Roman Republic endured for nearly 5 centuries, blending aristocratic rule with popular participation as Rome grew from a small city-state into Mediterranean master. At first, power lay with patrician nobles who controlled the Senate and top offices, while plebeians had little say. The long conflict of the orders gradually leveled power. The tribune of the plebs, 5th century BC, gained veto rights. The 12 tables codified laws, and by 287 BC plebeian assemblies could pass binding legislation. This balance of assemblies, senate, and consuls formed a flexible constitution later praised by Polybius. Rome expanded steadily across Italy. Through wars with Latin neighbors, Etruscans, and hill tribes, and recovery from the Gallic sack of 390 BC, it gained control of the peninsula, climaxing in the defeat of King Pyrrhus in 275 BC. A network of allied cities, some with citizenship, provided manpower and unified Italy under Roman leadership. Next came the decisive Punic Wars, 264 to 146 BC, against Carthage. Rome built a navy and captured Sicily in the First War, survived Hannibal's stunning invasion to win at Zama 202 BC in the Second, and destroyed Carthage in the Third. In the same era, Rome crushed Macedonia, defeated the Seleucid Empire, and sacked Corinth 146 BC, claiming Greece and Asia Minor, and turning the Mediterranean into Mare Nostrum. Conquest brought wealth and upheaval. Vast plunder and slaves enriched elites who created huge latifundia, displacing small farmers, while Greek culture reshaped Roman life. Reformers Tiberius and Gaius Gracchus, 133 BC, 121 BC, sought land redistribution and grain relief, but were killed, revealing fraying republican norms. The Social War, 91 to 88 BC, granted citizenship to Italian allies, and revolts like Spartacus's 73 to 71 BC deepened instability. Military strongmen then dominated politics. Gaius Marius reformed the army, making soldiers loyal to commanders. His rival Sulla marched on Rome, 88 BC, seized dictatorship, and set a precedent for armed power. The first triumvirate of Pompey, Crassus, and Julius Caesar soon emerged. After conquering Gaul, 58 to 50 BC, Caesar defied the Senate, crossed the Rubicon 49 BC, and defeated Pompey 45 BC, becoming dictator for life. His reforms from the Julian calendar to wider citizenship could not calm fears of monarchy, and on the Ides of March 44 BC, he was assassinated. Civil war followed. The second triumvirate of Octavian, Mark Antony, and Lepidus crushed Caesar's killers but split apart. Octavian defeated Antony and Cleopatra at Actium 31 BC, and in 27 BC accepted the title Augustus, keeping republican forms while holding supreme authority. The Republic's mix of democracy and oligarchy had carried Rome to unmatched power, but centuries of conquest, inequality, and civil war ended in an imperial order. The empire began with Augustus, who ruled nearly 45 years, 27 BC to AD 14, and ushered in the Pax Romana, 2 centuries of stability and prosperity. Augustus kept republican forms, the Senate and magistracies, but held supreme power as commander-in-chief and tribune. He reformed the army, stationed loyal legions on the frontiers, created veteran colonies, and built an efficient civil service to govern the provinces. His vast building program transformed Rome. He claimed to have found Rome a city of brick and left it a city of marble, while Latin literature flourished with poets like Virgil, Ovid, and Horace. Aside from the setback of Teutoburg Forest, he maintained secure borders and lasting peace. Power passed to Augustus's family. Tiberius kept stability but withdrew from public life. Caligula was erratic and cruel. Claudius expanded administration and conquered Britain. And Nero began well but turned tyrannical, facing the Great Fire of Rome and launching early persecutions of Christians. His excesses led to revolt and suicide, plunging Rome into civil war. After the Year of the Four Emperors AD 69, Vespasian restored order, reformed finances, and began the Colosseum, completed by his son Titus. Titus dealt humanely with the eruption of Vesuvius and a major Rome fire. His brother Domitian strengthened frontiers and fought in Dacia but grew autocratic and was assassinated. The Senate chose Nerva, starting the practice of adopting capable heirs. Trajan expanded the empire to its greatest reach, conquering Dacia and campaigning against Parthia, so that Roman rule stretched from Britain to Mesopotamia. Hadrian consolidated defenses, built Hadrian's Wall in Britain, and traveled widely to strengthen provincial administration. Antoninus Pius presided over the most peaceful reign, while Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, faced renewed wars along the Danube and a devastating Antonine plague, but governed with stoic resolve. From Augustus to Marcus Aurelius, the empire enjoyed unprecedented internal peace, economic growth, and cultural achievement. Roman law and citizenship spread, roads and aqueducts bound provinces together, and cities across Europe, North Africa, and the Near East prospered. By the late 2nd century AD, the empire held over 60 million people, about a quarter of the world's population, guarded by a professional army of some 300,000 to 400,000 soldiers. This 2-century Pax Romana became the lasting symbol of Rome's golden age. The death of Marcus Aurelius, 180, ended the tradition of adoptive succession. His son Commodus, 180 to 192, proved erratic, preferring gladiatorial spectacle to governance. Court corruption rose even as the frontiers held. Commodus was assassinated on 31 Dec, 192, triggering the Year of the Five Emperors, 193. Order returned under Septimius Severus, 193 to 211, a tough African-born general who strengthened the army and expanded in Parthia and Britain, but burdened the economy with heavy taxation and currency debasement. His son Caracalla, 211 to 217, murdered his brother Geta, and in 212 issued the Constitutio Antoniniana, granting Roman citizenship to nearly all free inhabitants, transforming the empire's identity and tax base. After the murder of Alexander Severus, 235, by his own troops, Rome plunged into crisis. For 50 years, the empire faced near collapse, incessant civil wars, invasions, plague, and economic breakdown. Dozens of short-lived emperors rose and fell, many killed by their own soldiers. Germanic tribes raided deep into Roman territory, while in the east, the Sassanid Persians humiliated Rome by capturing Emperor Valerian, 260. The empire even fragmented into the Gallic Empire, 260-274, in the west, and the Palmyrene Empire in the east, under Queen Zenobia. Trade and agriculture faltered, coinage was debased, and the plague of Cyprian, 250, devastated population and army alike. Stability slowly returned under capable generals. Aurelian 270 to 275, called Restitutor Orbis, reconquered the Gallic and Palmyrene breakaways and fortified Rome with the Aurelian walls. The decisive turnaround came with Diocletian, 284 to 305. Recognizing the empire's vastness, he created the Tetrarchy rule by 2 senior Augusti and 2 junior Caesars while enlarging the army, reforming provinces, and trying to curb inflation with the Edict on Maximum Prices. Diocletian also launched the last great persecution of Christians, 303 to 311, and shifted imperial style toward open monarchy, the Dominate. After renewed civil wars, Constantine the Great emerged sole ruler by 324. A pivotal figure, he embraced Christianity, issuing the Edict of Milan, 313, for religious toleration and convening the Council of Nicaea, 325, to define doctrine. He founded a new capital, Constantinople, 330, strategically placed and richly endowed, signaling the empire's eastward focus. Theodosius I, 379 to 395, made Nicene Christianity the state religion, Edict of Thessalonica, 380, and was the last to rule a united empire. After his death, the empire split permanently into eastern and western halves. The west faced relentless pressures. The Visigoths, admitted as refugees from the Huns, crushed Roman forces at Adrianople, 378, and famously sacked Rome, 410, under Alaric. Vandals seized North Africa, 439, and sacked Rome again, 455, while Attila the Hun ravaged Gaul and Italy in the early 452s. Roman authority in Britain ended around 410, and other provinces fell to Germanic kingdoms. By the mid-5th century, the Western emperor ruled little beyond Italy. Power lay with Germanic generals such as Ricimer and later Orestes. In 476, Orestes' Germanic troops rebelled under Odoacer, who deposed the boy emperor Romulus Augustulus and sent the imperial regalia to Constantinople. This act marked the traditional fall of the Western Roman Empire, though the Eastern Roman Empire endured for another 1,000 years, preserving Roman law, culture, and Christianity as the West entered the medieval era. After the fall of the Western Roman Empire, 476 AD, Rome entered centuries of decline and shifting rule. The Ostrogoths controlled the city until the Byzantines briefly reconquered it in the 6th century, but repeated sacks and wars left its population and grandeur a fraction of its classical height. As Byzantine influence faded, the papacy assumed temporal authority. In 754 to 756, Pope Stephen II secured the donation of Pippin, creating the Papal States and making the Pope a territorial ruler. Rome became the capital of a theocratic realm, and in 800 Pope Leo III crowned Charlemagne as Holy Roman Emperor, underscoring the city's spiritual primacy. Popes like Leo IV fortified Rome with the Leonine Walls after a Saracen raid in 846. Yet the city's population dwindled to mere tens of thousands, entering the 10th century Saculum Obscurum, Dark Age of the papacy. Around 1050, reformist popes such as Gregory VII reasserted Roman influence, battling Holy Roman emperors over investiture rights. Despite remaining small under 30,000 residents through the 12th, 13th centuries, Rome drew pilgrims whose offerings sustained the economy. In 1143, inspired by Italian city-states, Romans formed a commune, reviving a senate and republican ideals to limit papal control. Powerful noble families, the Colonna, Orsini, and others, fought the popes for dominance, while leaders like Innocent III alternately negotiated and waged war with the commune. By the late 13th century, these struggles and foreign interventions weakened the city. The papal courts moved to Avignon, 1309-1377, left Rome politically adrift and impoverished. The Black Death, 1348, cut the population below 20,000, and a fleeting popular revolt by Cola di Rienzo, 1347, failed to restore Rome's former stature. Although the papacy returned in 1377, the ensuing Western Schism kept the city unstable. By 1400, medieval Rome remained the seat of the Catholic Church but was a provincial, semi-ruined city, living on religious prestige and memories of empire, awaiting the Renaissance revival to come. After the end of the Western Schism, Pope Martin V restored papal rule in 1420, setting the stage for a Roman Renaissance. Popes such as Nicholas V (1447–1455) and Sixtus IV (1471–1484) cleared and paved streets, built palaces and churches, and drew leading architects, scholars, and artists to the city. By the early 1500s, Rome had overtaken Florence as Europe's artistic capital. Under Pope Leo X (1513–1521), this cultural flowering reached its height. Raphael's School of Athens (1509–1511) and Michelangelo's work on the new St. Peter's Basilica epitomized the High Renaissance, when papal ambition aimed to make Rome the artistic and cultural center of the world. The sack of Rome in 1527, when troops of Emperor Charles V devastated the city, abruptly ended the Renaissance boom. Yet Rome revived during the Counter-Reformation. Pope Paul III and his successors launched a Baroque transformation in the late 1500s and 1600s, commissioning grand churches, fountains, and sweeping urban designs. Masters like Gian Lorenzo Bernini and Francesco Borromini reshaped the city from the colonnades of St. Peter's Square to dramatic Baroque interiors, while Caravaggio pioneered bold new painting styles. By 1700, Rome had become a flourishing Baroque metropolis, blending its ancient monuments with spectacular new art and architecture. Re-established as the heart of Catholic authority and a magnet for pilgrims and artists, the Eternal City stood once again as a premier center of European culture and religion. In the 18th century, Rome remained the capital of the Papal States, a conservative clerical realm little touched by the political reforms of the Enlightenment. Though not an industrial or political hub, it drew scholars, artists, and wealthy travelers on the Grand Tour who admired its ancient ruins and Baroque splendor. Popes sponsored selective improvements, patronizing the arts, preserving antiquities, and founding museums such as the Capitoline Museum, 1734. But everyday life stayed largely traditional. The French Revolution and Napoleonic Wars abruptly disrupted this calm. In 1798, French forces under General Berthier occupied Rome, declared a short-lived Roman Republic, and exiled Pope Pius VI. After Napoleon seized power, he struck again. In 1809, he annexed Rome and the Papal States into the French Empire and styled his infant son King of Rome. Pope Pius VII was arrested, and French officials governed the city until Napoleon's defeat. Following the Congress of Vienna, 1814 to 1815, papal rule was restored, but the revolutionary ideals of Enlightenment and nationalism had already begun to spread through Italy, foreshadowing the political upheavals and unification movements of the 19th century. In the 19th century, Rome became a focal point of the Risorgimento, Italy's unification movement. Revolutionaries briefly established a Roman Republic in 1849, but French forces soon restored Pope Pius IX. The decisive moment came in September 1870, when the Italian army breached the Aurelian walls at Porta Pia while France was preoccupied with the Franco-Prussian War. Rome was annexed to the Kingdom of Italy, ending over 1,000 years of papal temporal rule. Declared Italy's capital in 1871, the city rapidly transformed from a quiet ecclesiastical center into a modern national capital. New boulevards and administrative buildings rose as migrants from across the peninsula swelled the population. Yet the Pope refused to recognize Italian authority, calling himself a prisoner in the Vatican, until the Lateran Treaty of 1929 created the independent Vatican City and acknowledged Rome as Italy's secular capital. During the 20th century, Rome continued to expand and modernize. The fascist regime, 1922 to 1943, reshaped the city with grand projects like the EUR district and the Via dei Fori Imperiali. World War II brought bombings and a brief German occupation, but Rome was declared an open city in 1943, sparing it from major destruction. After the war, Rome flourished as the capital of the Italian Republic, established 1946. It hosted the 1960 Olympics, became a center of diplomacy, fashion, and film, and grew into a metropolitan area of over 4 million people. Today, Rome remains Italy's political heart, home to the Roman Catholic Church and the Vatican, and a living showcase of art and antiquities, an enduring city that continually reinvents itself while preserving its ancient legacy. Rome's journey from a humbled medieval town to the thriving capital of a modern nation is a testament to its unmatched capacity for renewal. Across 15 centuries, the city has weathered invasions, plagues, political upheavals, and cultural revolutions, yet it has never ceased to be a focal point of European history. Its ancient forums and Renaissance palaces stand side by side with modern government buildings, echoing a past that continues to shape the present. Today, Rome remains both the spiritual heart of Catholicism and a dynamic urban center, where art, politics, and everyday life converge. In every cobblestone street and towering basilica, the Eternal City reveals the layers of its enduring story, a living bridge between antiquity and the future, and a symbol of humanity's ability to adapt while honoring its deepest traditions.